Now that we've entered March, I thought I would do a little update on my second month of Homebody Monasticism. Hi, welcome to Gently Being. So I have a video where I talked about my first month of Homebody Monasticism that I'll link to below, and I started this sort of experiment with myself in January, and I decided to keep it going in February, but I knew that I needed to make some adjustments. So I'm here today to update you on how the month went and maybe to share some of my failures in my Homebody monastic practice. First off, I wanted to somehow adapt the time I was waking up because I found that some days I was a little too tired or I didn't really want to disrupt the other beings in my apartment. But this sort of just led to me giving up on a specific wake up time completely. I guess I should take a quick moment here to pause and share for those who had not seen the previous video that a big part of my Homebody monasticism is having a very structured day. So I will have segments of time that are devoted to different practices, and I also fill in all those segments of time with all the things I need to get done on average during the day. So for instance, it always includes the various dog walks I have for my pup and making dinner, having lunch, making lunch. All those were given specific times and time frames to do things. And I found it to be a really wonderful exercise in January because I found it amazing how much work I could get done, and I did overall tend to have a bit more focus. But as I said, the first thing I let slide in February was that wake up time. And when I let that slide, I sort of just, as the days went on, let chunks of time slide, and I stopped following that very structured schedule that I had for myself. And I have to say, overall, I kind of failed at my Homebody monasticism in February, and I just am doing a bit of a reset during March. I learned from it that I myself, I do work better if I have a really specific structure. And even though I can change around the fragments, the blocks of time for different activities, just knowing that I have blocks of time that I devote to different things really keeps me more on track and keeps me more motivated. So one of the first things I noticed is that when I would be, let's say, editing a video for YouTube, I would give myself specific chunks of time to do that. If I wasn't done, didn't matter, I had to get up and take a break. Oftentimes the break would be a little bit of exercising, like doing some bedroom dancing or walking a bit. And this was really important because it was good for my health. It had me not sit at the computer too much. And two, it was helping me get more movement in during my days. But when I let that slide, I was sitting at the computer longer than I really should have, which really aggravated my neck and shoulders a bit again. And I found overall during the month that my exercise levels and my movement levels were down. So that was a bit of a negative too. I think part of this just had to do with sometimes February can be a bit of a blah month, especially once Valentine's Day is over. Sometimes it's just feels like the winter months are carrying on, and even though there is the return of more light a little bit more each day, it still can just feel really dark. It was quite gray where I was living. I was also still in lockdown orders, but to be honest, those orders don't change my life really at all, because I basically have lived in a pretty strict quarantine for myself since the beginning of COVID. So perhaps some of it was just also leading up to that 1 year anniversary of COVID quarantine life. I think all that together just had me kind of take a bit more of a relaxed approach to everything. And for myself, that just wasn't really the best way to go. All that being said, I don't actually consider it in any way an actual failure or anything. Every day with any sort of spiritual practice is just that, a new day of practice. And some days, some weeks, and maybe some whole months aren't going to be as fruitful, as dedicated, as fill in the adjective you want. And that's okay, because when you're putting really high expectations on those practices, you're really just setting yourself up for disappointment. So while I can jokingly admit I failed at my Homebody Monasticism in February, I don't really truly feel it like deep in my heart that I failed, but I did learn some really important lessons. Like, it is important for me personally, if I have that more structured schedule, and to stick with it and not to be too relaxed with just letting the little fragments of time grow longer and longer. And that if I have a more specific set wake up time, that it helps me start off the day on the right foot, as opposed to just letting that slide, was sort of the beginning of letting all the structure sort of just blend and meld into each other until there really wasn't much left. So with all that said, we're now in March, and I'm just trying to reinvigorate my Homebody Monasticism this month by trying to get myself back into a bit more of that stricter schedule, and really trying to, have myself keep it, maintain it. I've pulled back a little bit on all the activities that I put in the days back in January, just because I think that after February sort of falling apart a bit, I need to slowly get back in. But I think it will be very useful, and hopefully we'll move into a very fruitful April. So thanks so much for tuning in and checking in on Homebody Monasticism. Again, I'll link to the first video below, where I really go more into depth of what it was for myself, and some tips that I have if you're interested in sort of doing something similar. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe below, and hit the bell so you always know when there's a new video. Once again, thank you so much for watching Gently Being.